of the problem is emotions, which means if you want to quit pornography due to feeling desperate, you're doomed to fail, because that desperation is what fuels the pornography. I'm feeling so lost. I'm feeling so helpless. That's when your brain is going to reach for the pornography.
Welcome back to That One Random Podcast, episode 3. Yeah, where we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about porn addiction. Yeah, we're going to continue with our mental health series, focusing on men's mental health, and we're going to talk about porn addiction and the effects it's having on men and their mental health. I'm Cypher.
I'm Trebel.
And let's get into it. We say, bruv?
Yeah, this is a big one. This is a big topic that's very personal to me as well. Obviously, following in on from that last episode, this is a good one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well, because I believe I've got a bit to put into this one as well, because I talked about a lot of things that I went through I've gone through with my mental health in the last episode, but this actually plays a part into my mental health as well.
100%.
And I think it's an important topic we talk about, because I feel like porn has just gone to a next level. I think they say something like 70% of the internet, even if you included things like girls showing their booties off in Instagram,
everything's over-sexualized,
is porn.
But straight up, there's levels to porn. There's soft porn. There's, as you said, even just in lingerie can be considered a type of pornography. Yeah. And it's such a taboo topic, it's such a negative stim to it, where people don't want to talk about it. It's very hush-hush. It's not something that's free to open in discussion. And I think that's kind of encouraging it to spiral a bit more out of control. As you said, like, it's everywhere. I think people forget that porn was the first social media platform, if you like. YouTube, the whole structure of YouTube with the 6 recommended videos and then showing all the video, that came from Pornhub. Pornhub was the ones who kind of invented that structure for a website, and then YouTube copied that. So this has been long in the pipe works on the internet for a while now, and it's definitely taken over beyond what we're told.
Yeah, look, I kind of, because obviously there's an age difference between you and me, and you're 24, I'm 41, because I kind of want to go back to when I was your age and porn and the accessibility to porn compared to what it is now. So I kind of want to touch on that. It's like gone crazy, man. Like, and it'll be interesting when we get into a conversation. I compare the two generational differences about how bad it's got. But maybe we should talk a little bit about porn. Statistics, maybe if we've got some, because I know they're quite vague, because obviously porn addiction is a taboo. Remember, guys, and I just want to put that out there before Trebel starts going through a few things.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, men do not admit when they have a porn addiction. They're not going to tell society they have a porn addiction. So a lot of things do not get reported. So these numbers aren't going to be actual statistics in a sense, but they might help us, guide us a little bit in terms of our conversation here today. And then obviously talk about mainly the effects of porn, which I know you've already researched. So I'm going to hand it over to Trebel and let him talk a little bit about some of the stats and facts of porn addiction. Go for it, man.
Yeah, as you said, I think the statistics on porn addiction aren't a true representation. So, for example, they're saying studies are suggesting that around 3 to 6% of the population may have a pornography addiction. That men are more likely to report the issues with porn addiction, with estimates indicating that about 17% of men and 3% of women may experience problematic pornography use. Young adults, particularly those aged 18 to 24, are more likely to report issues with porn addiction. But the key thing that they're saying here is it's likely to report issues. And if you, as we said, it's not something that people own up about, let alone even consider a problem. But, we've been told by the media and by scientists themselves that, it's a normal thing. Masturbation is normal, and, it's encouraged almost. And as you said, in terms of just on the media where everything's over-sexualized, there's this acceptance and people won't register that as a problem. And so this idea that 3 to 6% of the population may have a pornography addiction is very low. And I don't believe that's a true representation of what's actually going on. So it's easy to look at these stats, but they're, in my opinion, and this is just, from living in the real world, seeing, from my own social group, I went to an all boys school. So knowing what it was like amongst 100 people, 150 people in my year group alone, and looking at that, there was definitely a lot more than 3 to 6% of my year group that was hooked on porn. So this is already not accurate, but that's something that we can talk about in more
They
detail.
also state that it's not as high with adult males over a certain age, over 30 as well, and that I completely disagree with as well. I think that's BS as well. I think the older generation are probably the most likely not to report their issue because of the taboo that they've grown up with, right? You're a perv, you're a this or that, etc. You know what I mean? You're seen as a perv, basically, aren't you? Or desperado or something like that.
I think here's another interesting one. The average age of first exposure to pornography is around 11 years old.
Ouch.
11 years old. And you know what? It's probably accurate. I think I was about 9, 10 when I got exposed. Obviously, we're going to talk about the history of it all. For me, that would have been early 2000s, late 2000s, where high-speed internet became a thing. And high-speed internet pornography was a thing. Obviously, when you were maybe 10, 11 years old,
we had dial-up.
Dial-up.
It was then it went like that, and then you, like, if you're lucky 5 minutes later, you were online. But you were sitting at your home. If you had it at home, not everyone had internet at home. You had a computer, usually a family computer. I remember when me and my sister lived together, like we had it in the living room of our council flat, and I can't sit there watching porn. Do you know what I mean? With my sister sitting there, or she might walk through the door. Like, you couldn't do it.
No, and from the research I've done as well, back in those times, you have to go into a movie shop or a magazine store, and there was an R-rated section where you still had to have the balls to go through that curtain almost and take that ownership.
Anyway. So like we used to joke around with. We used to wind up the local Patel, wasn't it? Yeah, meaning Patel corner shop, and we used to always go in there. We used to go for the porn mags at the top. Yeah. And they would go, wait. We were like he's wagging his finger at us, like, don't touch those ones.
There was those restrictions in place. Yeah. And even as you said, like, once you were 18 though, and you could go to those, you still had to consciously make that ownership of, I'm going to go through this curtain with other people in this building right now, and I'm going to go to a teller, I'm going to go to the till, and I'm going to have to hand in this, whatever weird fetish might be on it or whatever, and own and accept that. Whereas now you can do it from the comfort of anywhere and watch it on your phone even.
I'll tell you now, I remember, like, me and my cousin, right, me and him used to go to my uncle's room, right, when we were younger, at my nan's house, or grandparents' house, and he used to have dirty mags under one of his bedside drawer. Yeah, and we used to always go in there, pull it out, and have a look. That's how we used to get our porn exposure. Like, so, I'm probably, although I reacted a bit shocked that 11-year-olds are watching porn, I'm not too shocked at the same time, because at the same time, if I go back to when I was younger, we were curious to it as well. But we didn't have access to the internet and videos and stuff like that. We would have to go, like, your uncle's room, and even my dad, when I remember I was a little pup, and we used to have a cupboard under the stairs. Yeah, right. And I found a video under the carpet in there. What's this? And I actually played it, and it was boobs and arse, and I was like, oh shit, I'm not supposed to watch that. Put it back underneath, kind of thing, like, because, like, if someone walked in and saw that, I would get told off for it. But do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I think the difference between what's happening then and what now. Look, first and foremost,
now you just need a smartphone.
There is polarity between male and female, and as a man, you're going to start feeling feelings towards women, and you're going to want to start, especially during your puberty years, it's going to start escalating to a more sexual desire. And that's normal and that's fine. But the problem now, though, is the amount of hardcore content that you can find and what that's doing to the brain on a neurological level, but also on a societal level, where people don't know how to act anymore, or don't know what their responsibilities are. And that links into the whole men's mental health with that. Here's another interesting one. Over 90% of boys and 60% of girls have been exposed to online pornography before the age of 18. Over 90%. I would even say it's probably, from an old boy school, I'd say it's probably 100%. But over 90%, I mean, have been exposed to online before the age of 18.
And how many for girls? What was it again?
60%.
That's still really high for girls.
It's really high for girls. And yeah, it's just unavoidable. I remember back at school, for me, it was almost like passed around as contraband almost. People used to show that stuff in the classrooms, just someone had it on their phone and be like, here, watch this video. And it was almost encouraged to watch it. And looking back at it now, that was, now I can say in hindsight that was quite messed up in a sense, because what that was doing to all our developing brains at the time.
Yeah. So here's another one, right? I'm just going to read it out, yeah? The significant studies focusing on exposure of young people to pornography found that over half of boys, 53%, and over a third of girls, 39% in the UK, believed pornography was a realistic depiction of sex. I mean, that's kind of worrying as well.
At the end of the day, you know, a lot of these young people haven't had sexual experiences. And if they're watching material of sexual experience, it's only normal for them in their head to think that that is what it's meant to be, which is kind of scary because the content can get very extreme. And how does that affect a developing person's brain? It's shocking, it's scary, but who's pulling the strings is another.
So I'm going to play something now, yeah? Something that I screen recorded and turned it into audio from a doctor. I forget his name now, yeah? He was on the Diary of the CEO with Steve Bartlett. And it's like a 10-minute slot of him talking about porn addiction and what it does and all that sort of stuff. So I thought it might be a good idea to play that a little bit from someone who's probably studied it and helps men with their addiction around porn. And then we can go into a bit more. That's all right?
Yeah, let's hear it. I might know who it is.
You know, I think I showed you this before, or sent it to you and you thought, well, I'll react to it live kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
If you remember. So let me just play this.
Preparing for an engineering entrance exam to pursue my dream of becoming an astronaut.
How do I stop watching pornography permanently? I'm 17, I live in India, and I'm preparing for an engineering entrance exam to pursue my dream of becoming an astronaut. There are 4 months left, and I had really ruined my preparation by procrastinating in addictions such as video games, pornography, etc. I did get rid of my video game addiction, but pornography, I just can't seem to stop watching it. I've tried the easy peasy method, which I believe is the best possible method to quit pornography, but I've been unsuccessful. I want to get rid of this addiction as soon as possible. Whenever I try to quit, it's just a couple of days until I change my mind and relapse. I'm making this post as a last hope for quitting pornography because I really cannot focus on my studies, and my efficacy drops sharply due to this addiction, which I cannot afford at this period of time. The first thing to understand, I want y'all to pay attention to the language. Permanently, get rid. Can't seem to stop watching it. I want to get rid of this addiction as soon as possible. I cannot afford at this period of time. So the first thing to understand is that when we get addicted to something, the addiction creates a desperation to fix. I need to fix it now. It needs to be fixed forever. So the goal becomes, how do I fix it permanently? And the moment that we let the desperation fuel our desire to overcome an addiction is the moment we lose to the addiction. Because if it's being fueled by the desperation, what happens when the desperation eases up a little bit? What happens when you have a good day and you feel less desperate? So you are setting up a fuel which will run out. Second thing to understand is that pornography is primarily an emotional regulation technique. So if we look at the data on pornography and how it affects our brain, people do not watch pornography because they're horny or lustful. This is a common misconception. They're not like the horniest people on the planet. Or horny people can watch a lot of pornography. But people who tend to get addicted to pornography are usually not horny when they watch it, okay? Different things. What tends to happen is we use pornography for emotional regulation. So the key thing about sexual activity is that sexual activity has a very powerful effect in the brain. So if we look at the purpose of the human brain and body, it is to procreate, which is why if you look at sort of like fertility and like things like that, like you'll see this situation where if the body can afford to mate, it will, because that's ultimately what the goal is. So you'll even see in some situations like, you know, anglerfish, where the male anglerfish will attach to a female and all of the male anglerfish's organs will atrophy and it will become one giant testicle and pump sperm into the female anglerfish. So we see some highly specialized adaptations based on sexuality. And in the human brain or mind, what we end up doing is sex will override everything else in our head. And so when sex, like when I'm feeling bad, if there's an opportunity for sex, hey, let's push that out the window because, hey, there's sex. So when we see pornography, it triggers these kinds of changes in our brain. It triggers a strong amount of emotional suppression. And then the other thing is that oftentimes with pornography, there'll be some amount of masturbation, there'll be some amount of orgasm, which will release dopamine and will calm down our hippocampus even more. We also sort of slow down our brain, right? There's post-nut clarity. So there are all kinds of physiologic and neuroscientific changes from watching pornography. But the root of the problem is emotions, which means if you want to quit pornography due to feeling desperate, you're doomed to fail, because that desperation is what fuels the pornography. I'm feeling so lost. I'm feeling so helpless. That's when your brain is going to reach for the pornography. So how do you quit permanently? You do not quit permanently. The way to quit permanently is by letting go of the word permanent. You can't be sober for a year. You can be sober today. You can just resist now. So if you really want to conquer this, stop thinking about tomorrow. Stop thinking about a month from now. Stop thinking about all the time that you've wasted. Stop thinking about how important it is that this get taken care of. All of those thoughts are not helpful. And in fact, they are harmful. Regret about the past, negative emotion. Fear of the future, negative emotion. Desperation for change, negative emotion. Negative, negative, negative. Just feeds the pornography. Instead, one really simple thing. Don't watch pornography today. Don't watch pornography now. This moment in time, do not watch. When tomorrow rolls around, don't worry about tomorrow. We're going to worry about today. Not today, not today, not today. Those of y'all who procrastinate, leverage your procrastination. Procrastinate with pornography. I'll watch tomorrow. I'll let myself watch tomorrow. Tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. Keep putting it off. Keep putting it off. Keep putting it off. And as you put it off, other things will start to happen. You won't need it quite as much. You'll start to unwire yourself. Now, a couple of other practical tips. Number one cause of relapse is not actually strong negative emotion. It is boredom. So when you need that spurt of dopamine, your brain will make the addiction and video game addiction and some other kind of addiction.
So I'm just going to pause it there, yeah? I laughed when he said that bit about boredom, yeah? Because I thought that is so true, yeah? Us guys, when we're bored and we're just sitting around the house, we'll go, oh, I'll watch a bit of porn and smack myself off.
Literally, though. I mean, man, everything he's saying is very, very true.
I mean, we'll let him finish, but like, I thought that bit was funny, yeah? Because we do tend to do that, right?
Boredom is the problem. Boredom is a dopaminergic craving. So if you want to quit pornography, you better have your day packed from the moment you get up to the moment you go to bed. The more you can structure your day, the less vulnerable you will be to pornography. Because pornography squeezes in the gaps, right? I've got 15 minutes. I'm going to watch some porn. I've got an hour before bed. I'm done with dinner. Maybe I'll game. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to go to sleep yet. Porn. Porn will fill in whatever gap you have. So if you've got a gap in your day, porn will fill it. Number two is structure your day as much as you can. Number three is remember that the root of pornography is emotional regulation. As long as you do not have alternate emotional coping skills, pornography will be your default. This is where stuff like meditation works really well, or doing something like seeing a therapist, things like that. Like you need some way to regulate your emotions because the trash has to be taken out. And porn is really good at taking out the trash, so you got to take out the trash in some other way. Now, the key thing that people trip up with here is that when you try to take out the trash, you have to remember that while you are building a new emotional coping skill, it will be less effective than anything else you do. It will be the biggest waste of time. This is what people miss about emotional coping skills. Any new coping skill, you're going to be level 0, and you're like a level 92 pornography watcher. Your brain knows exactly what's going on, knows exactly what it's looking for, knows exactly where to find it. You even know based on what kind of pornography you watch, right? Depending on what kind of mood you're in, whether you need something a little bit more hardcore, a little bit less hardcore. It's interesting, right? And that's because your brain knows we need a stronger, so this is also interesting. If we look at why pornography is addictive, we need a supernormal stimulus. And a supernormal stimulus is something that is like more than what we're used to. So we see brighter colors, we see 4K, we see surround sound, we see VR, all this kind of stuff is more stimulus, engages our brain more. So if you really want to kick it, you got to procrastinate. You got to pack your day, because boredom is really going to be what screws you. You got to start to learn alternate coping skills. Meditation is probably number one. That's why it's so hard. Why does all the bad stuff feel so good? What a great question. So in our society today, all the bad stuff is what feels really good. Playing video games, using drugs, pornography, the bad stuff, eating unhealthy food, food that is high in carbohydrates and fat and processed. Why does the worst stuff feel so good? It's because the world that we live in today is so accessible and easy. We have such an abundance of those things. And back in the day when we evolved, the things that made us feel the best were a rarity, right? If you look at calorie density, for example. We used to eat stuff like cassava. I mean, a lot of the world still does, right? We'd eat these different tubers and we'd forage and berries and stuff like that. We didn't have like animal farms. We had to go out and hunt. So there was a very natural balance between our yearning for something and the availability in the world. The reason that life has become harder is because life has become abundant and easy. And the easier it gets, the harder things become for us. When I have food in the world. The reason that life has become harder is because life has become abundant and easy. And the easier it gets, the harder things become for us. When I have food delivery, grocery delivery, I can work remotely. I can always find new friends online. I don't need to leave the house. I don't need to leave my computer. I don't need to learn how to repair relationships because I can just block someone and start talking to someone new. So the easier the world has become, the harder things have become for us. Because when our brains evolved, they evolved in a certain kind of environment where we could not gratify our desires 24 hours a day. It was physically impossible. And so now what's happened is the burden has shifted to us to self-regulate. So we're quickly entering a world where EQ, or emotional quotient, is more important for your long-term success than IQ or your intellectual capability. Self-regulation is what correlates with success, not intelligence. I mean, intelligence does correlate with success, but what we really see is that self-regulation and conscientiousness are very important. And so the reason all the bad stuff feels good is because it didn't used to be bad, because it used to be rare. But now that it's become abundant, it becomes harmful. Sex is not harmful. Food is not harmful. It is the abundance of those things that is harmful. And so what's changed is that the availability has increased, which means we need to be more restrictive to compensate. So we have to evolve as human beings to survive in this world today.
So your thoughts on that?
Yeah, he said that was really good. He said a lot of good things, a lot of important things. Where to begin? Yeah, I think he's right. Boredom is definitely the biggest cause for relapse. I think we didn't mention though in more detail was the reason why pornography is so hard. As he said, it's something primal in us. This is something that, if you were to strip it down to the core of what being a human is, it's reproduction. If we're born into this world via reproduction, and it's the only thing that we are able to do. If you were butt naked on an island, broke to your name, you can still produce a child, you can still reproduce, and that is like the God's gift to you. And because it's so primal and innate to our nature, it triggers something mammalian in our brain, something so primitive. And to get that overstimulus through the access of pornography triggers addiction like no other. There's a study that says that pornography is actually harder than crack cocaine. Scientifically proven, because crack cocaine, for example, will hit a threshold. You either overdose or it'll hit a point where, you're going to be so buzzed out that it doesn't give you an effect. For example, I think it was maybe 1.2 grams of crack cocaine, you'll probably overdose and die. There's no overdose limit to pornography. You can binge watch 12 hours a day, every day, for the rest, for as long as you want, but it's triggering the same dopamine receptors as crack cocaine. So on the surface, yeah, crack cocaine, it looks fucked up, but when you break it down, pornography is actually harder of a drug than crack cocaine and heroin and all these other big stims, because it's so primal and our body needs that release almost. And then what you touched upon about, once you become addicted, the cause of a relapse is boredom, because it just fills that time. And he touched upon the best way to get out of it is just focusing on the present and not making this goal.
It's kind of what we touched on in what we said about
in the first episode.
The first episode, I said about being present.
Yeah, I heard another quote from an alcoholic, and what he said was, I don't know if I'm going to be, who's battling through his alcoholism, but he's been sober, and he's like, I don't know if I'm going to be sober forever, but what I do know is I'm going to be sober today. And that's all you can do, is just, I'm going to make the conscious decision to be sober today. And similar what he was mentioning about the porn addiction is you just need to make that step of, I'm not going to watch porn today, maybe tomorrow. And then when tomorrow comes along, you say, I'm not going to do it today. And you just keep pushing it till tomorrow. And, you know, on the NoFap community, they talk about reboots. I don't know if you've looked into the NoFap community. So fapping is like slang word for masturbation. And there's a whole community, there's like a Reddit forum, and they have their own website and stuff called NoFap, where it's encouraging men to not masturbate, basically, no fapping. And part of their philosophy was something called a reboot, where the brain, after long periods of abstinence where you don't watch pornography, your brain will start to heal itself. And you can go through a reboot phase, and they give usually about 90 days of just cold turkey, and your brain will start to heal itself. So there is hope for everybody, but it's a matter of not watching it and, you know, really abstaining, because otherwise the relapse will kick in.
So I saw a clip or something. Again, it was a diary of the CEO, and he had on a top urologist, a woman. Okay, and I've heard this fact before, yeah? And she put it out there. She said that men that masturbate 21 times on average a month, yeah, are least likely to get prostate cancer. Now, this is just masturbation. She's not touching on porn, yeah? So is it wrong? Is it bad for you to masturbate? Or is it just bad for you to masturbate to porn? So this is what I want to ask.
Lots to talk about. Firstly, just to go back to what the guy was saying, you know, about it's about emotional regulation, and what he touched upon was pornography addiction at its core, and with all addiction, is about filling a void. It's the addiction stems from an emotional need. It's like a crutch to deal with pain or trauma. And that's why people get the addiction, whatever that be, whether it be drugs, alcohol, or pornography. Pornography, as I said, being the hardest one and the most accessible one. You don't need to meet some shady guy in the alleyway to get your porn fix. But it's about filling that emotional void. What you're talking about masturbation. So in the NoFap community, there's something called PMO, which is porn, masturbation, and orgasm. And for a full reboot, you have to cut all of them. Porn being the hardest, then masturbation, and then orgasm. Ultimately, orgasm is the most natural thing. It's biological. It's the end goal. Ultimately, the goal is to have an orgasm with a loving partner. Masturbation is the next level of problem, and then porn being the biggest problem. The problem when I hear about this, if you masturbate 21 times, or it's healthy for your prostate and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I heard this when I was like your age.
I've heard that too. And that was a way to almost rationalize and justify the actions. Oh no, but it's healthy, it's normal. Actually this random scientist I found on the internet suggests that I should be masturbating regularly to prevent prostate cancer or something. And I was using that as an excuse, but I actually do disagree. I think masturbation. So
would you say it's not just about porn, it is just masturbation?
Because the reality of it now is, when you're masturbating, even if you don't watch porn, what are you masturbating to? You're masturbating of a memory of porn. No different then. Unless you've never been exposed to pornography and you're masturbating purely on like a deep emotional feeling.
Think about a bird you fancy.
But even then, what are you thinking about her? You're thinking about her doing some porn act or something.
Or a hot teacher if you're a youngster.
Yeah, but ultimately though, it still stems from a viewing of pornography and how that's corrupted your perception of it. I'm not saying masturbation is wrong. It's the abundance of masturbation. I think 21 in a month is a lot, but I have heard scientists or whatever they suggest
I thought that was a bit excessive when you said it as well, but I have heard it like years ago when I was your age, and I remember turning around and I remember hearing it, and someone was saying, regular masturbation helps against prostate cancer. I was like, at that age, like, what's prostate cancer? Like, you know what I mean? You're ignorant to those things. You're young. You think you're superhuman, right? Well, whatever. And it's like, when I heard it now years later, which is recently, I was like, oh my God, I remember hearing that when I was a kid, or when I was a lot younger, my early 20s or whatever. And I thought, wow, so if you're saying this, but then we're saying that porn isn't great for you, or isn't good for you at all, so are you saying that masturbation without porn is all right? You know, so that's why I was kind of asking you the question, because you've looked into this sort of stuff a bit more than I have.
I would say as well, and without going too much into the medical industry as a whole, but historically, medical practitioners and scientists have put out their knowledge, and it has come later in years or later in decades to be not the best advice. I believe, this is my own personal belief, but I believe that that advice or that encouragement isn't the best to be telling people. I don't think we should, because I saw that when I was young as well, you know, at a point where, especially when it's, you know, it almost becomes early stages of the addiction.
Do you think then that when men see things like that, right, when they read things like that they're using it as a reason, well, okay, I'm going to keep masturbating because it's healthy for
100%.
me. However, it's just their way of saying, well, I don't have an addiction. This is okay. And then you're not reporting it, and we're not seeing these statistics
as well.
We're seeing these skewed statistics, or these unrealistic ones which you obviously read out earlier on.
Look, I mean, like, to cross paths of other addictions, you know, I'm not sure if they still say it, but there was a stat that said, you know, drinking a glass of red wine every day was healthy.
Yeah.
But if you were to drink a glass of red wine every day, is that not an alcohol addiction?
Yeah, I would say so.
Or likewise, you know, back in the day, they used to encourage smoking cigarettes.
I say to anyone that's not drinking in a social environment, in a bar with a friend or friends, and you're drinking at home on your own, even if your partner's at home with you, and they're not drinking with you and they're not participating with you, and you've chosen to still drink, you're at a low level of alcoholism. There's many levels to alcoholism. Everyone, again, it's that ignorance around that. To be alcoholic, you must be drinking 10 pints every night and drinking a bottle of whiskey or whatever and getting smashed out your head every night. No, alcoholism is like I go home and drink a shot of whiskey every night, or a shot of brandy, or a glass of wine, or a beer or two. That's, to me, low-level alcoholism.
The way to know if you're addicted is to prove to yourself, or to try to prove to yourself, that you're not addicted. And so what people, you know, if you want to experiment this about pornography, if you don't...
I could go a week without porn.
Yeah, try it. Genuinely, try and go without porn, and you'll find, if you find it difficult, or if you can't do it, you have an addiction. And I think a lot of people have rationalized to themselves that it's okay, because they see stuff like, oh yeah, but masturbation's good, and you know, I'm protecting myself from prostate cancer, wherever they have heard that. So, as I said, the ultimate goal is to find a loving relationship, to be in a loving relationship with somebody that you can have sexual experience, because that is the most natural, you know, part of life. And as he touched upon, it's almost our purpose in a sense to reproduce. If all things were to collapse, you being able to reproduce is your God-given gift almost.
So given that you're a lot younger than me,
yeah,
given that, don't get me wrong, hookup culture was around when I was young. We used to call it the fuck buddy or whatever. Yeah, I don't feel it was probably as bad as it is now, the hookup culture, where people are less likely to get in a relationship and rather would just look for sex. Along with pornography, is that also affecting people's, I suppose, mindset around what a relationship is? Is it just porn, or is that causing the same problem as well?
Yeah, hookup culture has definitely not been helped, or has not been helping society. And I think you can split it into two demographics almost, where you got people who are involved in hookup culture, and maybe that's been encouraged because of pornography. And then you got people who are heavily in pornography because they couldn't tap into hookup culture, and you know, they're almost unable to get the women of their dreams, so they turn to pornography. And I think that's happening a lot, where I think I saw a statistic where it was, you know, the top % of men are engaging with like the top 60% of women, and the bottom like 80% of men are going for the bottom 40% of women in terms of quality. And it's just this whole disparity between men and women. And so all these men who are, you know, considered high value men but can't find high value women will just end up either with a low value woman, or just turn to pornography, where you can find the you know, almost a Build-A-Bear version or a Build-A-Bitch where you can just watch like whatever fantasy you want. You can literally filter it to the hair color, eye color, whatever you want. And now with the use of AI, you can get full on,
because you can get these animated
AI girlfriends and stuff.
AI porn that you can actually input what your fantasy is.
Yeah.
Because like if you want a green looking alien chick
With
being banged
tentacles and
by
shit, yeah.
you, the human being, you can live out these fantasy books. I thought was like, what the
But
fuck?
to touch
When
upon
I first saw something like that, I was like, or heard about it, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like now you can create your own animated porn
yeah.
and live out your fantasy.
Yeah, and it's getting extreme, as he touched upon about how it needs more hardcore stimulus. So I don't know if you're aware of like the escalation process.
Mm-mm.
So pornography starts to escalate, and so you can look at it from your own self, where it said about most people start at the age of like 10, 11. It starts off with you starting to realize you like women, right? That's you're a 10, 11-year-old boy, and you say, okay, I start to like women now. I start to understand that these other humans are more interesting than just a friend or whatever. Then you're like, you know what, I kind of want to see them naked. And then you start seeing them naked and you're like, wow, that's triggered something in his brain. And then you're like, you know what, I want to see two of them do stuff together. So now you start watching lesbian porn, right? That's how it always goes. You look at when you're like 10, 11, it starts off liking women, to seeing them naked, to then seeing lesbians. Then you're like, you know what, throw a dick in there. And then you start watching heterosexual porn. You start watching, it's voyeurism. You're watching other people have sex. That's what pornography is.
Yeah.
But that's never, and if you start to go down this escalation process, it starts to escalate. Once you start watching like a couple doing it, then all of a sudden it's like double penetration into it, and then all of a sudden it's like full on gangbangs, and then it gets to more hardcore stuff, fetishes and BDSM and all these other subcategories that have millions and millions of views on Pornhub. And it just spirals out of control to points where it starts to border morality, starts questioning your own sexuality in a sense, where it's just out of control. And it's so accessible, like you were talking about, like with tentacles and alien porn and stuff like that. There is, as I said, millions of views on these videos. So it's definitely got the numbers that people are interested in it. And as we said, it's not really, one, openly talked about. Two, most people don't see it as a problem when you've got scientists encouraging masturbation, for example. And it's just so accessible. As I said, it's free. You can just Google it.
Because you know what, I'm thinking back from when I was a kid, right? And it's changed a lot, man. I remember I joked about with this to you on, because I remember I sent you a clip, and we joked about it on WhatsApp. And I said, and you said, yeah, porn addiction is this. I sent you a clip or something around porn addiction, and you're like, oh my God, yeah, man. I go, you were like, you nearly made me relapse with that shot, with that video or something like that. And I was like, yo, when I was a kid, the only thing you had was imagination. Yeah, like if you wanted to spank it off, you were using your imagination. Yeah, you might have had a hot teacher at school with your hot teacher fantasy. And it wouldn't be a nuts fantasy either. Yeah, it would be just her seducing you and riding you or something like that. And you would just have, do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
It wasn't like what you
just
see in porn where you're like grabbing the hair and getting all aggressive and that kind of thing. It wouldn't be that kind of thing.
That's changed now.
It would be normal sex, but it would just be a fantasy kind of thing. And now you fast forward and you're telling me kids are watching this extreme hardcore porn, and they're addicted to it as well. And they think that, and not only that, it's also saying that they think that that's the true depiction of what sex should look like with a girl, with a woman. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of like it's gone to a mad extreme from when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, don't get me wrong, like, I have to admit, in the last few years, I've had my own problems with it. But like I said, I had testicular cancer. So if you watch the last episode, I'm not going to go into the depths of it all. You'll have to watch this, the last episode, episode 2, around men's mental health, where I talked about my battle with testicular cancer. And remember, I talked about erectile dysfunction, and all that sort of thing that was going on with me at the time. It wasn't that I couldn't get one. It was because it was a head job. There was so much focus down there that you were thinking like, oh my God, it's not working anymore. And then when I went to see a urologist, and he said, it's not that it doesn't work, Cypher. That's not the problem. it's organic what you're experiencing here. You've had a lot of focus in that area, and naturally you are now having a bit of a problem in that area. And this is when I still had one testicle. Yeah. And he was like, he goes, so you just need to give yourself time, chill, heal, and then it will all come back. And then when I lost the second testicle, a year later, it was like, oh shit, now I might have a problem with it, because that's one of the side effects now once you lose both, right? So naturally in your head, the negativity is kicking in. So naturally, what do I start turning to?
Pornography.
Yeah. Because and why I'm doing it is my initial reason was, is it working? Can I get an erection? Right? That slowly now, I think definitely for me, it's turned into an addiction, because it only got worse with time. And even now I'm still kind of battling with it. So it's like, now I'm like, yo, you need to stop doing this, man.
It's the hardest thing I've faced and am facing. I've done a lot of stuff.
Like, you know, like last year, I went like a good few months without watching and doing. But then what I found is, you think, oh, well, I won't do it, but I'll just have a little look. And then you have a little look, you're like, oh. And even if you're not masturbating, it's still having an effect on you. Because now it's causing you to potentially relapse. Whereas I find if you don't watch it, you don't look at it, you don't go searching out big titties on the internet, right? And you're not looking for anything like that. And even on Instagram, if you see a hot chick, just scroll on, don't linger on it. You'll find that, you know what, you don't need it.
It's about that, you know, the resistance starts to make practice, and practice makes permanent. To touch upon your point earlier, have you ever heard of PIED? P-I-E-D?
No.
So PIED or PIED is porn-induced erectile dysfunction. And where a lot of people who have erectile dysfunction today, especially in young people, isn't caused by anything biological. It's purely mental, in the sense that it's been porn induced, where there's like performance anxiety kicking in, or your brain is so corrupted that when a woman is naked on your bed, it's not enough. You need screaming and moaning in your headphones, and you need to see left shots and right shots and the camera panning all over the place.
You need her talking dirty to you.
You need, but it to the extreme where, and a lot of people who suffer from hardcore pornography addiction might understand this, but in terms of the level of stimulus that porn has created in your brain, when you are presented a real opportunity,
I'm not gonna lie, right?
The erectile dysfunction is there because
most of the women I have had sexual relationships with, right, enjoy it that way. They like it dirty. I'm not gonna lie, yeah. You women can say whatever you want right now if you're listening into this. Bullshit. You like it just as much as we do, yeah. But it has to be a mutual thing where you both want it. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, I've had some seriously like dirty talk and nasty thing, and a bit of a freak, being a bit of a freak in the bed, yeah. But my partner is okay with it. The problem is as a bloke, right? I'm going to use blokes as an example because that's what, you know, we're talking about men's mental health as well here, right? But as a bloke, if you're having these fantasies and you want to live out these fantasies during sex in bed, right, your partner has to be on the same level as you in that sense, that they're happy with that and they enjoy that too. If they're not comfortable with it, I feel that's where you're going to have a real big problem, and now your relationship's going to break down, because now you're like, well, you're not satisfying me anymore. So, okay, I'll go and watch a porn.
But there's the thing, do some of these fantasies come about because of pornography and that escalation process? So
when I was in my 20s, I didn't really have a lot of exposure to porn at all. Yeah, okay, I'm not going to lie. I was one of the last people to get a smartphone. Yeah, I was that against getting a smartphone. I clung on to my BlackBerry 8800 or whatever it was. I loved that thing. Yeah, I didn't. Everyone else was getting iPhones and all that sort of stuff. I was like, no, I'm cool with this. Yeah, all right. I didn't even have smart TVs. Yeah, when it came to, I'm more techie now than I was back then. I didn't care. Like, I had a whole box TV, and I was like, yeah, man, this is good. The screen works. What do I need to get a smart TV for? I got my DVD collection. I'm cool. Yeah. So I was one of those people who wasn't really watching porn in that way. Maybe other people were, but for me personally, I didn't see the world that way. But when I was having sex, I had one girlfriend. She used to tell me like, "Oh, I want you to talk to me like this, treat me like a whore, and all this." I'm not gonna lie, yeah. That's all right. Yeah, I'm into that. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not someone who's watching porn, so I'm like, okay, if you want to do it that way, we could do it that way. Great, yeah. So I don't necessarily believe, for my age group, like for me personally, I can't talk about other people, but for me personally, no.
But again, because we said that porn doesn't just come from porn websites. It can come from music. It can come from the media,
Maybe.
film. Did you watch maybe some R-rated films?
I was a
Listen to some rapper talk about bitches and hoes and all that?
Nah, so like when you had sex in films, like generally they're showing it as you making love and all this sort of passionate love and all this stuff. You're not getting any hardcore fucking sex from that bullshit. Yeah. Like I remember watching The Matrix and him and Trinity, the second one, they sneak off and they're having sex, but it just looks like passionate love.
Yeah.
They're making passionate love to each other. There's no like dirt in it. Do you know what I mean? I used to listen to a lot of 80s and 90s hip hop. That's my era, right? I don't listen to today's music and all that shit. But they were talking about shooting each other and gunning each other off most of the time. Then do you know what I mean? And then it was a very basic. Then it was the you had the gangster West Coast gangster rap, and then you had your guys like Rakim and LL who were just boasting in their tracks. Yeah, they weren't half time like Rakim. I don't think in his earlier records didn't even swear.
Just flexing,
lyrics and showing, I've got this. So look at my skills. Look at my this. I'm the man, kind of thing. That kind of thing. It was a boast, you know. And then you had West Coast rap came along, gangster rap. And there was parts where they were talking about women, but was it extensive to the point where it's pornographic? No, I don't think so.
Fair enough.
You know, and remember, if the woman's telling me, where's she getting it from? Then? And back then, the girls weren't watching porn either, man. Ladies weren't watching porn like that. Yeah, they might have been playing with herself a little bit, but like they weren't watching porn and doing it. Yeah, so I think it's just a fantasy that I suppose that's our animal instinct in a sense that you want it to be a bit
raw.
You want it to be a bit. You want your man to be aggressive a little bit, not like harming you, but you want to feel like there's a beast between your legs or something, and you want to give it that way and satisfy kind of thing. So I think that's where that comes from. Whereas now I probably think like young males like yourself, when you're having sex, you know, it's more the case. No, I want to live out that porn fantasy. Whereas before you were just having fun in bed.
Yeah.
You get what I'm trying to say? Mm-hmm. You know, I had one girlfriend who just wanted me to whisper in her ear and talk dirty to her while I was on top of her. Yeah, and go slow. So it wasn't me being aggressive and hard. And then I had some girl who wanted me to pull their hair. They enjoyed it. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I don't think porn had anything to necessarily do. I remember I didn't masturbate to porn. You know, I didn't watch things like that on the internet. I didn't even bother looking for it. I might find a dirty pic here and there, but that's it. You know,
it's changed now.
And dirty pic was just a bird with her tits out, and you're just jerking off to it. Yeah, whereas now it's like you go on your smartphone. All you got to do is Pornhub, right, or Hamster or whatever, innit?
Yeah,
sites, innit?
There's
so many, whatever tube or whatever. There's so many all these tubes out there, porn tubes out there, and all that sort of stuff now.
Yeah,
it's easily accessible.
You can literally find porn.
I think there's
Twitter,
a difference.
Reddit.
I think there's a difference. I think, you know, some women, when you look at my age group, we used to be like my sexual experiences, you know, and you know, I will behave like a man and a strong, aggressive man in bed, but not trying to hurt you. It's just that I'm giving you everything. But they're enjoying it. They're getting off on it as well. Whereas now I feel like your age group is a little bit different, you know. But again, I also understood that there's certain things that women didn't like in bed, because each of my partners, there's some things they didn't like. Some of them didn't like having their hair pulled, and you test it and you grab their hair a little bit like that. And when they shake their head, okay, you don't like that kind of thing. Didn't ruin it for me. Still have the sex and enjoy it. Just means I can't do that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But there's something else that they might like. You know, someone might say, put your hand around my throat. Yeah, and you don't do it like, let me squeeze the life out of you. You're just putting your hand because you want to feel the strength of a man on her, that kind of thing. And it turns out some women don't like that. Some like to be spanked on the arse. Some don't like it. Yeah, so do you know what I mean? It's different. I don't necessarily believe that's come from any porn. And this is where we're from different generations. And this is why I'm going back to my kind of experiences when I was younger, is that, yes, we did have sex in that way in certain ways, but it had nothing to do with porn, because the accessibility of porn wasn't there, and I wasn't really into watching porn anyway. But it's really weird, when I went through my testicular cancer and stuff like that, I used it as a way to kind of like, do you know what I mean? To like, am I okay? Do you know what I mean? And you develop an addiction to it. And I have struggled with it a little bit, I'm not going to lie, because then I thought, wow, I can't believe that this is going to have that kind of effect on me. But then when more and more now recently it's been coming out, oh, well, this is what porn does to your brain and da-da-da-da, and, the clarity of thinking and be able to think straight goes and stuff like that, your concentration and stuff. The same effects of social media, because it is essentially social media. It's just a hardcore version of social media.
Harder than crack.
Yeah, like you said, like you gave that crack statistic comparison, and like, really, shit, that bad. But yeah, but I think my biggest worry is that I understand is that in a relationship, it's not always going to look like that. Yeah, because you're tapping into each other's sexual needs, yes, but then there's some things that are going to make you feel uncomfortable. There's some things I'm not going to enjoy as a man. I don't like it when you do that. No, don't do that. Because I'm not going to enjoy it. Yeah? Do you know what I mean? But she may have experienced that, done that with a previous partner who enjoyed it. I don't enjoy it. So even she has to work you out as well. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Whereas with you guys now, this new generation, I think it's very much the case of, no, that's how I want it. And if I'm not getting it, then either I go to someone that does give it to me, or I'm going to go and watch a bit of porn after we're done to give me my satisfaction. Does that make sense? So yeah, I think it's a bit worrying for the future generations.
Oh yeah, so we've covered a lot. I think, all right, what else can we talk about with porn? Because I think we need to also touch upon maybe who's pulling the strings, why is it being encouraged? Because I do see that pornography is a spiritual battle. This is something that's sexual immorality is mentioned in the Bible as a wrong thing to do. And when you look at who's pulling the strings, why is it so encouraged? What's your take on that? Is it something just like how we know what's going on in Hollywood?
No, so look, I feel like we've talked about this before. We've talked about this offline a lot over the years, you and me, yeah, right? We're going through a spiritual war right now, yeah? Mm-hmm. And I think men right now are very much the target of that spiritual war. That first part, that first battle, is if you emasculate men and you take away their natural ability and mindset to be strong, to be the strength, do you understand? For society in the correct way, because there are some men out there who are just generally bad and have evil intent, bad intent, right? But a lot of us are generally good, have a good mindset and know the difference between right and wrong. And by taking that away and making us weak mentally and physically, it's easier to conquer society. And that's I'm just going to put it out there. I think there's just destruction of men's mental capacity, their ability to think straight, their ability to control their urges and have focus and be driven, all those things that can make a man great. If you destroy all of that, then who's going to defend society? Because at the end of the day, we touched on it before where I said, what is a man? And one of the key things of what a man is he's a protector. He's a protector of women. He's a protector of children, not just his own family. Yeah, you're going to stand up for what's right. And if it's not right, you're going to take on the person who's causing the harm or potentially trying to cause the harm, right? 10, 20 years ago, you see a woman in trouble with a man in the street, everyone will be flocking, what are you playing at? Now people get their phones out and start recording it, even men. Instead of actually getting in there and say, yo, what are you playing at, man? She's a woman, back off. I don't care what the problem is, you can't put your hands on her still. No one does that anymore. Everyone just goes, oh, God, what's going on? Even the men, pussy out. So I feel that's what they want. They want us submissive. So they want us submissive to women first, because they're trying to create this gender divide in the first place. But then that way, by being submissive to them, we'll be submissive to them as well, the ones that are running the world. And I'm not talking about your politicians there. I'm talking about the ones that run them, the ones that govern and run our world.
And I think that they also own the conglomerates of the porn industry.
Absolutely.
And yeah, as you mentioned, they want us pussies, basically.
Listen, we're going to have to do an episode on BlackRock. Yeah, I've got a good clip of BlackRock, yeah, and Vanguard in particular, yeah, because Vanguard is even worse than BlackRock. People talk about BlackRock as a company, but Vanguard is even worse because you cannot. They're a public company that needs to make their information public, even their stock holdings, and you cannot find information on Yahoo Finance about them. Who are their biggest stockholders? BlackRock you can, State Street you can, yeah, every other company you can, but you can't with Vanguard. It doesn't even show you who are their top 10 stakeholders.
Some shady shit.
Because they're the ones, that's the mother company that sits above everything else. And when we do go into that, it's going to be interesting, going to break it down, because I'll do a screen recording of us going on Yahoo Finance and show you all that stuff without getting too far away what we're talking about, porn addiction, but we'll go into that later. But yeah, absolutely. I think they're trying to destroy society in every single way.
And I think...
And you got to, remember what we discussed this before, yeah? We discussed this earlier before we did podcast episode, yeah? How did the Roman Empire fall? Because all the men within the Roman Empire turned into a bunch of pussies. Because it became so easy, they were ruling pretty much all of Europe and other parts of the world, yeah? There was no one left to fight. So what do? They become lazy, they become like we are right now. They start getting into things like porn addiction.
They get confused with gender.
Not only that, gender was an issue. Men dressing like women. You know, women vice versa, maybe becoming a little bit more masculine. You know, into having sex with whoever, whatever gender, doesn't matter. All that kind of stuff, all that kind of behaviour made them weak. Yeah, and then what happened when the barbarians came knocking at the door of the gates? They just kicked it in and said, this is going to be easy, boys. That's it, destroyed it. Beat them at their own game. And there was no one there to defend it because all the men in the Roman Empire within Rome turned into a bunch of pussies.
And I see that's happening today. And I think what's going to come on now with the metaverse and when we start going more AI immersion, you know, with like the Vision Pro and all these new, what they call like goggle masks where you can strap a screen to your face and you can get VR and virtual reality and all that stuff. That technology is going to be designed for pornography. That's going to be their biggest market. Oh, yeah. Once you can put on a goggle.
You ever watched Demolition Man? Yes, I have actually. When she said she wants to have sex with him.
Yeah,
they put on those devices and he's like, "What the fuck is this?"
But it blew his mind
we're having sex, and it fucked his head so much. He was like, "No, what is it?" It was too much.
It was too much stimulus. So that's the problem, though, because what do you then do when fake feels better than real?
I mean, you could end up. You know what's going to be weird, right? Yeah, with those VR things, right, or those headsets, whatever they call them, the metaverse stuff. Is you're going to create an avatar for yourself that's super sexy, yeah, as a woman. And you're going to, as a man, going to make yourself look like a six-pack, chest-wearing motherfucker and all that, looking hot. Like how you want to look, but are too lazy to go after and get that look, yeah? And then you're going to be hooking up with people, in my opinion, yeah, over the internet. And you say, oh, her avatar looks good. Oh, his avatar looks good. Let's get it on. Marvin Gaye's going to start playing in the background, right? Yeah. So, and now you're having sex over the internet while you're sitting on your couch and she's sitting on a couch and she might weigh 300 pounds and you might weigh 400 pounds, but you're looking at each other's avatars, so you're getting off on it.
And then you got some toys or whatever just to like...
That's how I think it's going to go.
Yeah. But that's the point though. So it is... What do we do though if the fakeness of it feels better than...
The thing is, what do we do, yeah? Because, like, people want more and more technology. They want more and more of their life to be easier. I mean, we got to talk about certain things later on, but I'll touch on it. It's like basically universal income. People are going to jump at it. Do you know what I mean? Not have working less hours and getting your money, your paycheck being subsidised by... Because he touched on it as well when he spoke about it. He talked about ease of life is what's the problem. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right? So... You can imagine, like, if you're working 20 hours a week and the government said, oh, you only have to work 20 hours a week now. We'll give you the rest of the money. And you can enjoy your life. Oh, how many people are going to jump at that?
For sure. Especially when
you can't save any
mainstream.
Money. You can't save any of this money. You have to spend it all by the end of the month. Oh, okay. I can do that. Right? Who's not going to be able to do that? But it's a trap as well because now do you know what I mean? And now it's further destroying you, keeping your mind in the wrong place, the negative place, where you will never fight back because you're thinking, well, why would I want to fight back for? Why would I want my freedom? I only have to work 20 hours a week, which I still think is too much, and the government's giving me money. I get to sit at home.
Play GTA 6 all day.
Yeah.
Watch pornography. Shit, it sounds pretty good though. Fuck.
Do you know what I mean? Like...
It is scary because, I mean, it is an easy life. It is an easy route, but at what cost?
It's costing your sanity and soul.
It's costing your soul for sure.
It's soul killing. That's soul killing, though.
It is soul killing, but Yeah, I see the appeal.
Short-term gratification. Yeah, so do I.
see
So do
the
I. 'Cause
appeal.
even I sit there and say, shit, man.
Sit
that
down all
sound
day,
good, don't
watch
it?
pornography and
You
play
even-
GTA 6.
Sit there, I don't have to do shit. I don't have to fight no wars. I don't have to do nothing. We're all under one government. You can see where it's all leading to.
Fuck.
I'm just gonna say I don't give a fuck. That's the whole point of our podcast, is to say what we want to say, and we got to get deep into that stuff as well. But without getting it too deep into this particular episode, because obviously we want to always try and keep it to an hour. But yeah, I think that plays a massive part in it.
Yeah.
Like the filthy rich global elitists as well are trying to fucking destroy our manhood as men. Yeah, our very essence of being a man. And they're trying to crush it because then they know full well if there's going to be a fight back, the men are going to be the ones on the front line fighting it. If you have to get physical, we're going to be the ones who get physical with you. Do you understand? Yeah, and I'm not promoting violence, but if it got down to that point, who's going to do that?
But what do you think about what Joe Biden said?
About
He said, he was like,
that idiot says a lot of things. Tell me.
are you able to find a video of it?
What, on YouTube?
Yeah.
What's it called?
Joe Biden, you need an F-15. That should come up.
You need
An F-15. He's like, come on, guys, seriously. Talking about fighting the government. Nah. It's only like a 30-second. Yeah.
Is this like a minute?
The first one's only a minute long, yeah.
Should we play that?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Hold on.
Right now, you can't go out and buy an automatic weapon. You can't go out and buy a cannon. And for those brave right-wing Americans who say it's all about keeping America's independent and safe, if you want to fight against the country, you need an F-15. You need something a little more than a gun. No, I'm not joking. Think about this. Think about the rationale that's used to provide this, and who they shooting at. Shooting at these guys behind me. Folks, look. I went to every major school shooting around in the country since I was a chairman of the Judiciary Committee all the way through as vice president and president. Over 48,000 people died from gunshot wounds in 2021 in the United States of America. Over 26,000 by suicide. When guns are the number one killer, listen to this now, the guns are the number one killer of children in America. Of children, and number one. More children die from guns than active duty police and active duty military personnel.
That's illegal guns, right? Yeah. If you own a gun, like you're a licensed gun holder, you're not going around shooting kids. These are people who are bringing the guns are coming in illegally, and you're taking those guns, sending it to the gangs on the street, and they're firing them off, and some poor kids got shot in the process. That's the way I see it.
The reason I brought this video up was because obviously we're talking about we need men to stand up against this cabal that's going on.
Just give me a sec, yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to show you that video real quick because what he touched upon about needing an F-15 to go up against the government is it's actually a very true point. Yes, we're going to need men to stand up against this whole thing, but realistically, what can you actually do as a man to stand, to fight? Even if you're the most masculine man and you can bench whatever, if a tank comes rolling down your street, what are you actually going to do? If a tank rolls down your street and military guys are coming out with machine guns.
But I think men who have are in control of their thoughts and their fears and all that sort of stuff, don't underestimate human, ingenuity. Yeah, there's a lot of, throughout history, what has been proven, that when you have armies that are built from militias within society, you look at America itself, their first civil war, which you would classed it as, they would have classed it as, right? Which would have been the British, them against the British, the king, trying to get their independence from being a British colonial state. Where do they get the guns from? Where do they get the weapons from? Where do they start off with? How do they start off? Do you know what I mean? You're always going to find a way. Rebel forces that come together from nothing, they obviously get their weaponries and stuff like that from somewhere. You will find a way. So I don't think we should underestimate the determination of a group of human beings who are trying to fight against
So
I'm not saying it would be difficult because obviously the government have all these.
we ain't got fighter jets and shit. That's what he's saying. You ain't got F-15. They got fighter jets.
Yeah, that's cool. But then, like,
you can't stand up against a fighter jet.
At the same time, yeah, you look at how are these gangs getting some of these kids on the street who've got like freaking, even in America, freaking AK-47s, assault rifles. Do you know what I mean? It's not hard to get hold of these guns, and there's loads of dodge people out there looking to make money. So you could get. Would you get an F-15? Of course not. Yeah, but like at the same time, they have to be careful of that because if you're fighting that war within your own state, you're not fighting in a faraway land. If that broke out here in London, for example, without going too deep into this conversation, if that happened here in London, they'd have to be careful because people are going to say, "Well, you're bombing me too."
Yeah. So what I wanted to say to bring it back to the...
It's right. It's like basically militaries are not trained to police their own states, their own countries, their own populations. They do that against foreign lands. That's what I'm going to say.
So...
And remember, would they do it?
Yeah. The reason I bring it up was because what I saw was about the gun rights was I saw a meme actually, but it was about American with gun ownership and it was like a liberal, you know, like a blue hair, kind of like really like these people that are encouraging really beta behavior, you know, and saying like that's, you know, we should be letting drag queens talk to our little children. The guy with the gun was like, the person that, you know, these kind of people that encourage that was like, yeah, you don't need guns, you know, you're not going to be able to fight the government with that. Talk, you know, on the back of what Joe Biden said, you can't fight the government, you need an F-15, like seriously. But the guy was like, these guns aren't for them, they're to fight you and to fight the liberals in that sense, where, because eventually when it comes to a civil war, it's going to be between the classes and it's going to be between those people who support maybe poor medical information and the people who support.
No, I get what you mean. You're getting the people. You're basically you're looking about people that have woke, the ones. Listen, I hate the fact that they've stolen the word wokeism. I never used wokeism because when my brain really started to come unlocked. Yeah, I feel like since a kid I've always questioned things. I've just never said it out loud. And when I became my late 20s, that's when I really started thinking and talking about things and being really openly critical about things.
Yeah.
All right? And back then we were seen as woke because we were awakening from our program. Yeah, and now they've stolen that term. Yeah. But when I say woke, I mean people who are critical thinkers, who are awake, yeah, who are starting to break and come out of their programming. Not fully maybe come out of their programming, but they understand how the world works, right? And I get it. It will be us, that sort of group, versus the ones that are still programmed. It'll be like the Matrix. Programmed.
Yeah, that's probably a better way to...
Against people who are still under programming.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where the real fight's going to be, you know, at the end of the day. I think in America, I don't know whether that will be the case here in the UK, but definitely in America, it feels like you've seen what happened with the Texas border not long ago. You know, the governor of Texas as well. And I personally feel like that's going to break out that way at some point. You know, it's going to happen in America. It's one of the predictions I made 14 years ago. It's going to happen. You're going to see another civil war in America. It will happen. They put a movie out now, Civil War.
Yeah, I saw that.
I've not watched it yet, but my point is...
But it's predictive programming.
Predictive programming of what's to come.
Yep.
Yeah, and people just don't get it. But without getting too lost into that stuff, because we're getting away from the porn addiction, but like going back to what our final conclusions and thoughts were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're trying to destroy men's mental health, our ability to think, our individuality, our strengths that we bring as men to society, you know, as the natural protectors of society and women and children within society. They don't want us to be that way because then they won't be able to do all this shit in school with the kids and teaching them all this about masturbation at 5 years old. Like,
this is why I bring it up.
That's why I bring it up. What effing kid needs to learn that in school right now?
Yeah.
Yeah? Let the kid be the kid. Yeah? All right? And, you know, they want men to look at women as disposable objects. Right? There's been a degree to that where men in certain circumstances throughout history have thought like that. Okay, not all men, but they're usually the worst kind of men, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but they're trying to do it to the point where you don't have a wife, you don't produce children. You know what I mean? They're trying to separate it all and control it all. And they don't want you at your strongest, they want you at your weakest. And that's where I feel it's getting worrying because we're giving into addictions, whether it be porn, whether it be drugs, whether it be alcohol, whether it be hookup culture, whether it be whatever. which is killing off our minds.
For sure.
Yeah, and killing off our souls, because it's soul draining as well.
It's a spiritual battle.
And put you into, and like you said, it's a spiritual battle. That's going on. And that's what I think the end goal is. We want total control of you, and we need to do that in a number of ways. Food insecurity, porn addiction, plenty of mental health. We want you all on pills and medication. Take this needle. I'm not going to say it because I don't want another video banned. So again, because episode one was already banned, but we'll get into that at some point. We will, and talk about it openly.
But you can still find it on Rumble though. You can still find episode one.
You can find our first episode on Rumble, by the way, guys. It's banned here on YouTube.
Banned.
Yeah. But they're going to do all this stuff to crush the human soul. And say, you've got no hope, no choice. We are the ones that are going to save you. Do what we tell you to, and you will have a blissful life. You'll own nothing and be happy is the theme. Yeah? Yeah. And I can imagine people saying, well, as long as you're paying my bills for me and giving me some pocket money, daddy, I'm happy with that. And you can see a lot of people going with that, because we live in a lazy fucking generation. And only the ones that have hunger and desire are going to go on to be successful. But they end up controlling them as well. Do you know what I mean? But the rest of us, they're like, nah, kill them off. And that doesn't mean kill you off, like necessarily get rid of you. That basically means let's just destroy your soul. Let's take your spirit.
Basically.
And that's what I think it's going to. So the guys, people are good, because you know porn is that bad. So why not just get rid of it? Yeah, I always say this to everyone. I go, they know cigarettes are bad for people. Yeah, but if you went 30 days without a cigarette, you get it under control. Even a week, you'll have it under control. You will. So why not just get rid of it? You know alcohol's bad for people and it causes a lot of problems. So put a limitation on it. Right, mate, that's your third order for today. No more.
See, I partly disagree with that, because I also believe in a free market.
Yeah, but not to the point where it's being encouraged for you to destroy yourself.
That's the next thing. The encouragement is...
It's an encouragement. That's, you see what I'm trying to say to you?
Even in the...
If you want to drink, you can drink. Don't you? Drink as much as you want, yeah?
But they advertise it like crazy.
But the fact is, I just saw a mountain water advert, yeah? And the theme song to the advert on YouTube was, it's illegal or it's not illegal or something like that. And I was like, what the hell's going on? And I couldn't see the can properly. It looked like a Corona can. These kids are like drinking. And I thought, what the fuck is going on? I knew it was going to be a water or something like that. And then a pregnant woman at the end comes out of the corner drinking it, and it says, mountain water. Don't worry, guys, it's just water. But you do realise what you're doing with that, right?
That's what they do with the vapes. They make it colourful like candy. So
what are you doing? You're already programming these kids. When you get older, this is what you do as an adult, party and get drunk.
That's another one we can talk about as well, vaping, because that links in with the whole...
But do you see what I'm pointing?
Yeah.
Like, you know all these things are bad.
It's encouraged, that's the scary bit.
You're encouraging it, yeah? There's nothing wrong with drinking. You and me have a drink, yeah? But do I drink every single weekend? Fuck no. Yeah, when I was younger, I partied, I did it, I had my time, I had my fun. Now that I'm an adult, I don't feel the need to go out every weekend and drink. I don't enjoy my drink as much as I used to, as well. So I don't feel the need to get pissed. Yeah, because I don't drink it. And because I don't drink as often, my body's like, do you really want that? So I'll sip on it all night, and do you know what I mean? Unless it's one of those nights and I'm with the lads and I think, you know what, let's get smashed. Yeah, we ain't done it in a while. And I'll regret it the next day, yeah? But you see what I'm trying to say? Now it's like, people say, I need to go out, I need to go out. Why do you need to go out for? I need to escape. Escape from what? Your miserable life. So how about you sort out what's going on in your life, as opposed to drawing into your addiction?
Well, that's the same thing.
Because even if you only drink on the weekends and go out and party on the weekends, it's an addiction. It's still an addiction. People don't understand that. You're addicted to going out on the weekend and getting drunk to escape the misery of your 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. No?
Yeah.
Because you're looking forward to it. And when Monday starts, you're like, oh God, it's Monday. And then you get to Friday, you're all psyched because you're going to get pissed that weekend, and it happens really quick, and you're like, oh, weekend was too quick. I'm back at work on Monday. So there's clearly something problem. There's something you're not happy with in your life if you're doing that. And the same with porn. Porn addiction is the same.
Yeah, it's filling that emotional void.
Like you said, it's filling that emotional element, that emotional distress or problem that you're having.
Yeah.
And
likewise,
you can apply that to everyone. You can
Yeah.
apply that to going out, getting pissed on the weekend, going on your holiday and having to get pissed up in Marbella or wherever it is, something you're not happy about in your life is leading you to go abroad or go out on the weekend and cover it up by giving yourself false happiness. And you're doing that through an addiction. You may spend Monday to Friday not touching a drop of alcohol, but come the weekend, you're pissed up Friday night, you're pissed up Saturday night. It's an addiction. So, yeah, I think they're trying to destroy society, man.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've just said.
And they're starting with the men first.
Yeah, you have to get rid of them.
Yeah, get rid of them. Not necessarily even get rid of them.
Get rid of their innate human nature. Yeah. Make them docile. Make them weak. Make them feminine. Even
that's exactly.
That's getting rid of them.
That's it.
Yeah. For me, I think like my final thoughts was just porn. I'm gonna give a hard line because I suffer with porn addiction and I've seen the negative effects it's had on my life and how extreme it can get. I'm gonna give a hard line. Porn is bad. Avoid it at all costs.
Yeah, I agree.
I think if you have any self-respect for yourself still, avoid it. If you want to love yourself, avoid it. If you want a better relationship with your friends, family, and eventually a girlfriend or a partner, you have to avoid pornography. Back to the whole masturbation bit, I would say avoid that as well. And if you can, save your God-given gift of orgasm for the partner that, at the end of the day, this is your seed. This is your life force. And to just be bussing it down a drain or bussing it into the toilet or into a piece of tissue is an act against God. I know that's going to be controversial to a lot of people, but from my own experience and the battles I'm facing, I really do see it as...
Even if you don't believe in God, that's still your seed. That's something you're naturally being given. It's your
life force.
To give away, to be able to bring more life into the world. Yeah, that's the whole purpose of us being able to be able to do that, is that one of our purposes is to bring life into this world.
It's probably it's one of the only purposes.
God, like whether you believe in God or not, yeah, that's something you have to agree with, yeah, right? That your purpose as well. Why were you given that functionality?
It's the only functionality you really have.
Do you know what I mean?
As I said, if you're butt naked on a desert island, what's the one thing that you can still do? It's reproduce.
Yeah.
If there's another butt naked woman or whatever,
yeah, she's up for
it.
Yeah, then you can reproduce.
You can repopulate that whole island, just the two of you, Adam and Eve style. But you don't need a phone. You don't need all of that. You don't need a job. You don't need clothes. You don't need shoes. But you, as a human, have the ability to reproduce, and that is, your right. And to be giving it away to corporations through videos and giving as I said, busting your seed down the toilet drain twice a day religiously, I'm a hard no. That's wrong. It's bad. And I think if you can avoid it, it will only do you wonders. And I think from my own experience, when you do go through these long periods of abstinence and you start to recover, as I said, there's a NoFap community if you want to look into that, and they've got lots more information. But the brain can heal itself. There's neuroplasticity. Your brain's plastic. It can remold and it can reshape. And there's neurons in your brain that can start to reconnect once you start to come off the porn. As I said, porn is harder than crack cocaine. It's the hardest addiction. The dopamine that's triggered is off the roof. It's off the charts.
So this is what they said there, that you can redirect your dopamine levels into wanting positive things. So if you started to cut out all sugar, for example, and only drank water and ate healthy things, that is all your dopamine would ask for then. Take a couple of weeks, you would see the effects of it. Yeah. Okay. I like a glass of Coca-Cola, right? But when I'm sick, I'm not touching it. Yeah. And all I'm drinking is fruit juices and orange juice and herbal teas and, do you know what I mean? And water, right? Okay. After a few days, you're like, don't need that Coke. But the minute I do decide to have one, I'm like, I want more. Yeah, so do you know what I mean? You can redirect and change your dopamine, what it gets addicted to. Yeah, right? So if you start reading books rather than watching TV and stuff like that, or reading books instead of watching porn, you're going to change what your dopamine level is now addicted to. Because it's going off what's setting off your taste buds, and then same when you're watching porn, you're like, your brain cells probably go...
Straight explosion in your brain.
Yeah, give me more of this.
Yeah, and that's where the escalation part comes into it. As I said, there was an experiment done on rats
Yeah.
where they put a rat inside a cage or in a box with another rat, a male and a female rat,
Yeah.
and they would fuck for as long as they could, and the male rat would keep going and it, like increasing, but it would stop at a certain point where eventually this woman couldn't satisfy him anymore, and he would just keep in it. And once that stopped, he wouldn't mate. So these two would become platonic in a sense where they don't reproduce anymore. They're not engaging in that activity. As soon as you swap that female out for a new female, that man goes back to zero in terms of desire and craving, and will start that whole process again of wanting to have sex with that other female all the way.
Wow.
And eventually it will hit that same spot where it's like, this is boring. But what they did was they put in a new female again, and that male rat went back to zero and was able to go again. So he hit a point where couldn't get an erection anymore. Put in a new woman. He's good to go again, back to 0%, like 100% strength.
Yeah.
And they could keep doing this with as many women. It never ended. And they show that is the exact same with humans, where a man can eventually, after a while, become bored with the one partner and then desire a new one. And what porn does is, if you really think about how many women you have seen in porn, that's a novel woman every time, triggering that, going back to base level. That's why they designed Pornhub and all these different websites to have 10 different videos already playing in the thumbnails on your screen. And you go to page 2 or you click another video and it's like recommending you another 6. Without even subconsciously, you've already witnessed 30 different women naked.
Yeah.
If you really deep how many new women, new novel women, you know, back in the day, you might have searched up, oh, you know what, I'm only going to watch one porn star. And just like, I'm going to just watch hair videos.
But you're going to get bored of that, Rich.
You're going to get bored of that. And you're going to start expanding.
You
start new ones. And when you really calculate how many partners you've been with in your own head, it's a lot. And it's worrying. And what that's doing to the humans and what's it doing to men specifically, as you said, is it's making them weak. It's making them docile. It's making them not engaging properly with females in the real world. You know, a lot of people are almost nervous to approach women because all they see is what they see on the screens, and then it doesn't live up to their expectations in the real world and in bed. And, you know, as I was talking about, porn-induced erectile dysfunction. So final thoughts is, porn, hard no, avoid it.
Yeah, I was about to say,
I think
it should
be illegal. I think there's not enough restrictions in place.
That's another topic, though. We do need to get into the relationship between men and women now, in terms of actually dating and things like that. But yeah, no, I agree.
I mean, if you really think about it, you can go on Pornhub and it will say, are you over the age of 18? Yes or no.
Yeah.
I was about 10 years old clicking yeah. I've been 18 since I was 9 years old.
Yeah, but that's more to just protect themselves. To say, well,
but this is my point. It's so easy.
You as a parent should have put restrictions in place.
But if a 10-year-old wants to go to a shop and buy alcohol, he's not going to be able to get that.
Yeah, no, but because it's online and they can't see you, in a sense, that whole thing is to put blame on the parents. To say, well, we put that in place to make sure that the person watching is 18. If they say yes and they're 11 years old, why is you as a parent have not put parental controls in place?
But why is it free? Because you can't buy alcohol online. You still need a credit card and proof.
I know why it is. You know why it is. But what I'm saying
everything we've talked about.
I'm talking from a legal standpoint why they put that in. Legally, they put that in to protect themselves.
Yeah, but who are they protecting themselves from? And how are the people that they're protecting themselves from allowing that as the appropriate safeguarding? And this is where we come into the whole who's pulling the strings, and we can talk about the conglomerates.
They'll just spin it. You know, there's no point in getting to this topic, part of the topic, because that's what it's there for. Yeah, they're not trying to put a restriction in place. They're trying to just protect themselves legally. So the parents can turn and say, "Well, my child came across your this blah 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 in a search engine, and this came up." Well, when they popped into it, they should have said they weren't 18. And why have you not, as a parent, put parental controls in your internet access at home or in your kid's phone or whatever? Blah 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 blah. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And that way, it turns on the parents, so the parents can't sue them.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, that's basically what it's all about. Yeah, but they make it easy as well because they do want that kid to watch it because, like I said, we know they want to fry their brains. But let's not get too deep into the other stuff because we could go.
But yeah, it links into what the previous episode in terms of some of the positive things that you can do for your mental health is cut porn out.
Cool. Listen, look, another good episode, I think. We covered off quite a bit in there. As always, guys, like, share, and subscribe. Please, we're trying to grow as a channel. You can catch us on Rumble as well, where you can find the band first famous episode 1, which is over on Rumble. But yeah, look, like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Cypher.
I'm Trebel.
And we out.
Peace.